the Melungeons of Hancock County. In the remote hollows of Hancock County, Tennessee, during the autumn of 1863, a mixed-race community known as the Melungeons faced a crisis that would test their survival skills honed over generations of mountain living. The Melungeons, families with surnames like Goins, Collins, and Gibson, had lived in these Appalachian ridges since the late 1700s. Their ancestry was a complex blend of European, African, and possibly Native American heritage. However, they often claimed to be Portuguese to avoid the harsh racial classifications of the antebellum South. For decades, they had carved out a precarious existence in the mountains, farming small patches of land, hunting and trading with their neighbors while maintaining a careful distance from the racial tensions of the lowlands. When the Civil War erupted, the Melungeons found themselves in an impossible position. Tennessee was a Confederate state, but East Tennessee was largely sympathetic to the Union. The mountains themselves became a battleground not just between armies, but between neighbors. Confederate conscription officers roamed the hills, forcing men into service, while Union guerrillas and deserters from both sides turned to bushwhacking and raids. In November 1863, a Confederate conscription patrol arrived in the settlement on Newman's Ridge, demanding that the Melungeon men report for military service. The leader of the patrol, Captain James Morrison, had heard rumors that these strange people were harboring Union sympathizers and deserters. Vardy Collins, a respected elder in the community, stepped forward to speak for his people. At 62, he was too old for conscription, but his sons and grandsons were not. "Captain," he said in the mountain dialect that marked all inhabitants of these ridges, "we're peaceable folk. We don't hold with either side in this war." But Morrison was suspicious. The Melungeons' ambiguous racial status made them targets of suspicion from all sides. To white Confederates, they were potentially disloyal, free persons of color. To some Union supporters, they were collaborators who might betray escaped slaves or Union soldiers seeking refuge in the mountains. The crisis deepened when Morrison's patrol discovered that the Melungeons had indeed been sheltering people, but not who he expected. Hidden in a cave system known only to the local families were 3 Confederate deserters, 2 escaped slaves heading north, and a wounded Union soldier named Private Thomas Mackenzie from Ohio. Rather than choosing sides, the Melungeons had chosen humanity. Vardy Collins' daughter, Mahala, had been tending Mackenzie's infected gunshot wound with traditional mountain remedies, poultices made from wild ginseng and golden seal. The escaped slaves, a man named Joshua and his teenage son David, had been given food and guidance toward the next station on their journey north. The Confederate deserters, homesick boys from Georgia, were simply trying to get home alive. When confronted with this evidence, Captain Morrison faced his own moral crisis. Military law demanded he arrest everyone, the deserters for abandoning their posts, the slaves for escaping their masters, the Union soldier as a prisoner of war, and the Melungeons for harboring them all. But the mountain winter was setting in, and Morrison's own men were exhausted, hungry, and increasingly questioning the war that seemed to have no end. One of his soldiers, a young man from nearby Hawkins County, quietly reminded him that these mountain folk had always helped travelers, regardless of their politics. In the end, Morrison made a decision that likely saved lives. He ordered his men to confiscate some livestock and supplies, enough to justify his visit to his superiors, but he gave the Melungeons time to clean house before he returned. The message was clear. The refugees needed to be gone, but he wouldn't pursue them. Within hours of the patrol's departure, the mountain network activated. The Confederate deserters were guided toward paths that would take them home. Private Mackenzie, though still weak, was helped toward Union lines in Kentucky. Joshua and his son David were directed to conductors who could guide them further north on the Underground Railroad. The Melungeons' actions during the Civil War exemplified the complex loyalties and survival strategies of Appalachian communities. Neither fully accepted by white society nor classified simply as black, they created their own moral framework based on mountain traditions of hospitality and mutual aid. Their story illustrates how the war's impact extended far beyond major battles, affecting isolated communities that struggled to maintain their humanity amid the conflict's brutal demands. This episode in Hancock County was repeated in various forms throughout Appalachia, where mixed-race communities, small farmers, and isolated settlements navigated the war's chaos through networks of kinship, mutual aid, and mountain knowledge that often transcended the political divisions tearing the nation apart.